Hello, and thanks for tuning in. As always, I'm Reverend JR, and today we're going to take a look at this video here, which I'm going to respond to as quickly as I can. It's nearly an hour long. It claims the Shroud of Turin is real or something. So we're going to take a look at the most important bits of it I can find and put into a 10-minute video. Maybe 20 if it carries on very long. The title of this video is Shroud of Turin, Amazing Proof of the Resurrection of Jesus, and it's well known the shroud is a fake. So, let's get right into it. First off, no, the story is not demonstrably true. Second off, it has nothing to do with whether or not he was resurrected. Third, if they didn't kill him, then humanity would all go to hell, according to the Bible, because Jesus wouldn't have died to save them. This is a really weird thing to be salty about.
For centuries, people believed that his body was wrapped in a linen cloth. The Shroud of Turin.
That's correct, even though the Pope himself, at the time, admitted that it was a forgery, and the bishop who allegedly discovered it admitted that it was a forgery. These are well-known facts. People still choose to believe that it isn't. This is why belief doesn't matter. You need evidence.
Here's something that proves Jesus walked and talked among us.
See, here's the thing though, I'm gonna guess that none of your evidence is tied to any other piece of evidence related to Jesus. So at best, even if it's real, you have literally no way to tie it to Jesus. You don't have the spear of Longinus. You don't have the stakes that went through his wrists, or the cross that he was nailed to. You don't have the whip that he was beaten with as he went through town. You don't have the clothing he wore when he was alive. You have absolutely nothing where you can say this piece of cloth belonged to that person.
But is it real?
It is most assuredly a piece of cloth with dyes upon it. It is most assuredly not the thing that covered the face of Jesus.
One of the first scientists to analyze the relic has uncovered startling new evidence.
Alright, and this is the point where I and others asked for timestamps to this alleged evidence, and as none was given, I'm going to take the first 3 pieces, as it was claimed, that overturn the old evidence. So let's see what those 3 pieces of evidence are, if they're here at all.
I don't believe in miracles that defy the laws of nature.
He said, as he told us this shroud covered a man who rose from the dead and turned water into wine. It's called bias, man. Can we have the evidence? This is going to take a while.
If the shroud was real, this fragile piece of cloth has survived 2,000 years.
I wonder if that's the evidence he was talking about. Saying if something. Too bad he didn't tell me what the evidence I'm looking for is.
According to the Gospels, Jesus was crucified by the Romans.
Oh, is that your evidence? Jesus died? Because some old book says so? So therefore he must have been buried in a cloth? That's not evidence, actually. Again, I really wish you would have just come out and told me what evidence I'm looking for, but I don't think you have any.
Many believe that after Christ's resurrection, the shroud was saved.
You know, here's the thing. Just believing that the Bible is correct doesn't prove your point. Also, Luke 24 says the tomb was empty. So it can't be empty and also contain the burial cloth, you see. I mean, if the Bible is to be believed, and that's what you're trying to tell me is the reason the shroud exists in the first place, then I should also believe the Bible when it says it wasn't in there. Oh wait, that doesn't work for your narrative. My bad. I'll stop being inconvenient with the facts, I guess.
In the 14th century, a shroud appeared in the French town of Liry.
So what you're telling me is, they didn't find the shroud in the tomb. They found it in some French town 1400 years later. Hey, you're not going to believe this, but I found Jesus' left testicle in my freezer.
People claimed it was Christ's.
Oh, darn it, man. I left it out on the counter the other day and the cat got to it and... Well, it's not there anymore, but I claim I had it, and I claim it was Jesus's. I mean, you gotta believe me, right? I'm claiming it. It must be true. No, I don't think this is the evidence you were pointing to either. Really wish you would have told us what evidence specifically, 'cause so far it's all adding up to crap. Oh my goodness, it must have taken so much money to buy all these stock images, then put lens flare on them, fade them in and out with cross, and then... Like, what is this evidence supposed to be? Like, am I supposed to be compelled by the dramatic noises? Is the picture supposed to be part of the evidence? Why are there such long pauses with no words in a documentary about evidence? A documentary about proof.
Fragments of Christ's crown of thorns and slivers of wood from his cross were a focus for hopes and prayers.
You know, that's the funny thing. You can just tell someone a piece of wood is another piece of wood, and if that person is inclined to believe it, they're going to believe it. Kind of like how there are allegedly 4 different spears that pierced Jesus throughout Europe in holding, even though only one spear, like, actually pierced him, except for that one time it says they pierced both sides, but it doesn't actually say with 2 different spears, you see. So there's 4 spears because the Bible says there's 1 or 2 spears, even though none of them actually, can be tied to Jesus. And now you want me to believe that a shroud that apparently didn't exist in the tomb somehow found its way to a French village 1400 years later, and is indubitably as real as those little fake pieces of wood that people believe to be parts of Jesus' crown and cross. No, that's not evidence. Again, really wish you would have told me what those 3 pieces are, because we've been through about 7 or 8 now, and none of them is it.
The shroud is so powerful in the image that it bears and the significance of that image to so many people.
So literally, just an appeal to emotion. A lot of people have an emotional attachment to it, therefore it must be real. I'm sorry, but that's not evidence. You can have an emotional attachment to things that do not exist. Sorry to burst your bubble if you didn't realize that already. Like, for example, many people form bonds with stuffed animals, and they anthropomorphize them. It doesn't mean the stuffed animal is real, but the person to whom it is valuable will act very much like it is if you harm it.
Many believed it was the burial shroud of Jesus, and yet scientists hadn't been able to examine it.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of religion, doesn't it? Scientists just aren't allowed to touch it for reasons. Probably because the entire story falls apart when you think about it.
But advances in photographic analysis were starting to uncover incredible clues hidden in the image itself.
It's a shame those same photographs, and the images we can see today, demonstrate that it couldn't possibly have been woven at the time Jesus was alive, but in fact must have been done at least 1,000 years later. Oh wait, this isn't the evidence you want me to look at, is it? No, of course it's not. Time for more gin. Honestly, I realize this is supposed to be, like, for entertainment and stuff, but none of this has to do with anything to the point. I don't need sweeping shots of the background with dramatic music to set up mood. That's another form of appeal to emotion. Seriously, if you claim to have evidence, demonstrate it. I don't care who is your scientist. I only care about their method and how it's been peer-reviewed since. But considering that very few people are allowed to observe the shroud in the first place, this kind of kills half of the evidence you can possibly provide.
One breakthrough was made using a remarkable new imaging device. The VP8 was originally designed to analyze aerial photographs. It converts the light and dark on a traditional 2-dimensional image to create a brightness map displayed on a 3D grid.
So a computer program that vectorizes a picture of the shroud based upon its light and dark areas and creates a height map from it completely overturns carbon dating. I mean, you could just take a 3D scan of it with a laser, but that would be actual science, and we don't actually want to do that here, do we? I should have bought a larger bottle of gin.
Scientists wondered if it could be used to shed new light on the shroud. Engineer Peter Schumacher helped develop the VP-8.
Nobody in our company had ever even heard of the Shroud of Turin, let alone seen pictures or wanted to look at image analysis of the Shroud of Turin.
Scientists, nay, the entire world wanted to get a view on this old piece of cloth. That's why you picked a scientist who had never heard of the thing to take a look at your piece of cloth. Yeah, the whole rest of it seems to be just this exact same kind of waffling back and forth and overly dramatic bullshit. So that's where we're going to end it today because I don't have enough gin. So thanks for tuning in. As always, this has been Reverend JR signing off.